Welcome, this is Pam. Today we're going to be talking about, is the carnivore diet a good diet for multiple sclerosis? And if we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha. I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis over 35 years ago. So I have been around for a long time and have done really well as far as keeping the MS in remission, being able to live MS free for 35 years. And what I can share with you is some really valuable information today, because the carnivore diet is gaining a lot of popularity. So this video is going to help you to understand why someone with multiple sclerosis could see some benefit with the carnivore diet. We're going to go over the pros and the cons, and then you get to decide what's best for you. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I am producing a lot of these videos and a lot of content on Live Disease Free. That is our website, livediseasefree.com, really helping people to learn how to play an active role in their healthcare so that they can recover from chronic disease. We have a lot of wellness champions that have followed our work, that have taken our programs, that have recovered from incurable diseases. And so that's what we're talking about today, is just the diet part of recovery. Like, why would the carnivore diet be helpful when we want to improve our health? And some of us are hoping to possibly heal and recover from multiple sclerosis, but other chronic diseases also. So the carnivore diet has gained a lot of popularity. It started to become popular after 2018. And it really is essentially a diet where people are eating meat and fat and some salt and some water. And that's basically it. And some variations of the carnivore diet will allow for certain things like eggs or cheese, but it's very, very limited. And this video that I'm sharing with you, it is not an attack on the carnivore diet, because I do understand that it has helped a lot of people. Some people that were so sick that they couldn't, basically they would have to have a lot of operations and be on strong immunosuppressive drugs, and it really gave them back quality of life. Today we're going to talk about why that is so, why it has helped, and I'm going to give you some really important concepts that will help you in deciding if this is important for you, if this diet will be helpful for you. So again, I love meat. I eat meat daily, and I'm not against a carnivore diet in any way. But what I challenge today is for you to think, like, what if that it's not that animal or that plant food is bad for you, it's that there's something else going on in the body. And if you could correct the root cause, you could actually enjoy the meat, but you can have different types of foods too, and it wouldn't be so restrictive. We know that at least 90% of people that are on the carnivore diet or have tried the carnivore diet have done so because it was for health reasons. It's not like, I want to only eat meat. No, it was because I have these horrible symptoms and I don't have any answers. The doctors are not able to help me, and I'm desperately trying to find some symptom relief. And that's usually the reason why people try different types of diets. There's paleo, there's keto, there's a Live Disease Free diet, and there's carnivore diet, and there's other Mediterranean, autoimmune. So we do know that with multiple sclerosis, diet is really important, but we're going to talk today more about the carnivore diet and why, like, what kind of benefits we can have with it. And we do know that with inflammation, and I wanted to backtrack for a moment too, because this really sets the stage of, why the carnivore diet is helpful and why possibly, for following it, that we could actually treat the cause of our inflammation, and then we would not have to have such a restricted diet. Yes, the carnivore diet can help people to have a lot of symptom improvements, but most people, I'm sure, would admit that they would be very thrilled if they could start to introduce other foods and it wouldn't cause any symptoms for them. So we know that different autoimmune diseases, like different types of inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, Crohn's disease, diabetes, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, other autoimmune conditions, and like rheumatoid arthritis, even multiple sclerosis. There's been anecdotal cases of people having symptom improvement with this carnivore diet. Gout, irritable bowel syndrome. So there's many different conditions that where people follow the carnivore diet and they do have some symptom improvements. And some people don't have symptom improvements, but a lot of people do. So the carnivore diet is really a way of eating where it really focuses on different types of animal protein, so meat, so we can have fish, beef, chicken, pork, any of the types of meat. Sometimes dairy, but it's eliminating all of the plant foods. So we're getting rid of all of the grains, we're getting rid of fruits, vegetables, and legumes. So it is solely a meat-based diet with meat and fat and salt, and that is the strictest carnivore diet. So the whole premise behind the carnivore diet is that we are following an all animal diet to decrease inflammation. And so the whole rationale for the carnivore diet is they're saying, well, plant foods have a lot of different chemicals or compounds in them that hurt our body, that cause inflammation in our body, that our immune system reacts to. And that's the part that I disagree with, because when you really start to research into this whole thing about autoimmune disease and inflammation, it's really, I say, the greatest healthcare deception that we've had in the last over 100 years. And we'll get into that. But it's so interesting that in the 1880s, there was a James H. Salisbury. I believe that he was a doctor or a researcher, and he advocated for a meat diet in 1880 or in the 1880s. That's a long time ago. So that his diet consisted of lean beef and hot water. So he found that drinking, and this would be really interesting, it might be a little tiny hack that might help people that are really sick. So drinking really hot water, sipping it, and I can't remember how, you can look up his protocol, but basically sipping hot water, I don't know how much of it, like it might have been 1 to 2 cups of hot water before a meal, and then meals of only beef, that really helped to resolve a lot of different conditions in people. I thought that was really interesting. The 1880s, that was a very long time ago. So let's talk about multiple sclerosis, but I just want to share that I have a lot of other people that watch my videos that don't have MS, and what I'm sharing is not solely for multiple sclerosis. It's for any type of chronic disease. But I can't talk about all the diseases today, or we would be here for hours and hours and hours. So we'll talk about one disease. But with multiple sclerosis and other neurodegenerative diseases, we have a lot of similar symptoms. We can have a lot of similar causes, and we'll talk about the cause. So we know that with multiple sclerosis, diet is really, really important. And people notice big changes in their symptoms, improvements in their symptoms when they decrease, especially things like gluten and dairy and sugar and alcohol. So when they go off of all those things, they notice that their symptoms will improve. They may get less MS attacks. So diet, I know that our neurologists are not really talking about diet, but people know that when they have MS, this is something that the vast majority of people will experiment with, and they'll find out that there are certain foods that will really make the inflammation worse and certain foods that will allow the inflammation to settle down. And so many people have been removing all those types of and processed foods, like especially the carbs, the sugars, the processed foods. Another thing that I brought to your attention, and we talked about this last week, so if you didn't get a chance to listen to my video or my live last week, make sure to go and check it out. And it's bowel problems in multiple sclerosis, so the link between. And I shared with you that if you have MS, that for years before your MS diagnosis, you probably had gut issues, and then there's a huge increased risk of constipation and incontinence with MS, but also inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's and colitis. So there's this huge link between the bowel and multiple sclerosis, which is so odd when we're looking at standard of care, because with standard of care, they're saying, oh, no, it's just the nerves in your central nervous system. There is no other part of your body that's involved. And it's like, yeah, whatever. So the science is showing that there is a huge link between the gut and, causing multiple sclerosis or being a factor in multiple sclerosis. So we talked about that last week. And then we also talked a lot about parasites and how they are present in every single country in the world. That's a fact. And a lot of them live in the GI tract. And they cause a lot of symptoms of constipation and diarrhea and incontinence. Those are symptoms that scientifically we know parasites cause. So here we have a disease like multiple sclerosis, and you can think about whatever disease you have. And you probably have gut issues, right? And there is a big link between autoimmune disease and gut issues, not just MS. And then we know that the primary job of our immune system, look it up by definition, it shows at the top of the search bar, is that the immune system, let me actually just read it to you so that you can see. It's just incredible. So the primary job of the immune system is to protect the body from infection by identifying and eliminating harmful substances like bacteria, viruses, and parasites, while also protecting healthy tissue. So this is the primary job of the immune system. And with every disease, there is inflammation. In any disease, MS and all diseases. So inflammation, by definition, again, I'm reading a definition. This is not my own take on inflammation, but this is what is well understood in science, that inflammation is the body's immune system actively responding to fight off an infection or injury, so by releasing chemicals that trigger a healing process, causing noticeable symptoms of redness, swelling, and pain at the affected site. So if we fall off our bike, yes, we have an injury. But otherwise, then inflammation is caused by our immune system fighting infection. So we know that our immune system's primary job is to go after infection, and we know that inflammation is the war of when our immune system is going after infection. So I'm not talking about getting in a car accident, we're talking about MS, all these different diseases, like all the different over 80 autoimmune diseases. So we're living in a time where we have over 80 autoimmune diseases. We don't know what causes any of these diseases. There is no cure for a single autoimmune disease, even though they've spent huge amounts of money over many years trying to find a cure. They're really not talking about a cure anymore. They're always talking about better disease-modifying, disease maintenance drugs that we take for the rest of our life to suppress our immune system, because they're running on the sole premise that our immune system is attacking itself. All right, and that, all of these people and these autoimmune conditions are increasing in society all the time. And are why has our immune system gone haywire in everybody, right? Why are we not looking at that? And then we know that parasites cause inflammation. So why aren't we looking at that? We know that we have parasites in our environment, and we know that our immune system fights infections and parasites. So why won't we look at that? Why won't the research look at that? Why won't the researchers look at that? Because there's no money in treating parasites. That's as simple as it gets. It's really awful. So now we understand that, with every disease, including MS, we have a lot of inflammation. Our immune system is fighting something or some things. Usually it's infection. Of course, if you were in a situation where you got a total toxic load from something in the environment, but most people are not in that situation. So your immune system is fighting an infection. That's its job. Why not look there first? If that's its primary job, why not look to see which infections could be causing? I have shown in previous videos where they have actually found Borrelia in the myelin of nerve cells in Alzheimer's patients. So if Borrelia, the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, can actually get into the myelin, is it our immune cells that are attacking the myelin for no reason, or is it the immune cells are just trying to defend us from the infection in or around our nerve cells? Common sense. We have to go back to common sense, that we're in a time where our mind is being blown on many different levels of truths that are coming out. And it makes us angry at times, right? And it's really frustrating. We can't completely change the system that quickly, but what we can do is we can take charge of our health. We can choose a different path for us. And for some of us, we've started with a carnivore diet. And there is going to be a lot of benefits. So now that we understand really what's going on in the body, now we can understand better why the carnivore diet could give some symptom improvements. And before I go on to that, I just wanted to share too that it's not just that parasites cause all the bowel issues, the digestive issues. You know, whether you're talking about acid reflux and GERD, or whether you're talking about constipation or incontinence or gas, bloating, all of those things and much more, all of that can be caused by parasites and is caused by parasites. But we also have this really large body of evidence, and for many of these different types of infections, there's like over 100 years of research linking multiple sclerosis to various types of parasites. So there's tons of evidence that multiple sclerosis is an infectious disease caused by parasites. I've done lots of videos on this. Go and watch them. Dr. Alan McDonald discovered filarial worms, very small nematodes in the central nervous system of every MS subject he looked at. He also found tapeworm larvae and developing tapeworms in the central nervous system of MS patients. Also found Borrelia, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, in the central nervous system of MS. There's been lots of studies that have found fungus in higher incidence in the blood and in the central nervous system of MS. And then there's all these different studies that have found, like for over 100 years, where they have found protozoa, or it's a single cell parasite. It's like malaria. It's like the protist that causes malaria, or babesia, like that type of a parasite that infects our red blood cells. And they have found that and linked that to MS over 100 years ago, also for over 100 years. And then we know that Lyme disease, Borrelia, the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, has been heavily linked to multiple sclerosis. And that these are all parasites. A parasite is any microbe that lives in our body and causes us harm. So all of these parasites are linked with MS. And we know we have inflammation. We know that our immune system is fighting infection, parasites. Then why are we not looking at this? All right, good question. All right, so let's look at the potential benefits of the carnivore diet. So again, when you decrease the carbohydrates significantly, and that's what the carnivore diet does. So the carnivore diet, the premise that the spin they're trying to put on is, well, plants are so toxic to the human body, and when you don't eat plant food anymore, then you have less inflammation in your body. And I totally disagree with that, because people have been eating plants for years and years, and we thoroughly enjoy it, and there's lots of healthy plants. There can be some toxic plants too, of course, but a lot of the plants are healthy. But it's true that when you decrease plant food, that when you have chronic disease, that usually the inflammation goes down significantly. So we know that the parasites, their favorite or preferred source of energy is carbohydrates and simple sugars. So when you decrease carbohydrates, then you notice a great reduction in inflammation. So that is the reason why the carnivore diet helps so much. So they say that there's less gut irritants, because again, they talk about, well, yes, the sugar in highly processed foods. And if you do have a lot of inflammation, that possibly sometimes fiber doesn't agree with you, but that's not because the fiber is the problem. It's because your gut is inflamed from the infections. Also, they really focus for the carnivore diet, some of the healthcare professionals that are pushing this really hard are just saying all plants are toxic. You got to eat only meat. That's the only way you're going to have to be healthy. I totally disagree with that part. If somebody wants to eat meat and they don't want to eat anything else, as long as they're getting all their nutrients, it doesn't matter. That's great. If it helps them, wonderful. But don't say that plants are toxic. I don't believe that they are. If your microbiome is in balance, then you eat the plant food and you just feel wonderful and you feel healthy. So that is the whole key, is to correcting your microbiome enough, is to treating the parasites. The carnivore diet, because it's very low in no sugar, basically zero sugar, so it's really good to help to stabilize our blood sugar. But if you eat a large amount of animal protein in one sitting, like a huge, like 10, 12 ounces of steak, your blood sugar can go up significantly. So that's not stabilizing your blood sugar. So again, if you're eating carnivore, a little bit healthier would maybe, I know that it's easier to eat only twice a day, and people do that often because it's simple and they feel satisfied, but having, lots of healthy fat, which is recommended with a carnivore diet, and just not eating too much meat at one time could help to keep the blood sugar more stable, not for it not to go up. And then nutrient dense, yes, it's like a complete protein, and the fats, the healthy fats for sure, especially if you're able to get grass-fed animals. And, you can eat in a way that you are getting tons of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. So I don't see a problem with the carnivore diet if you're smart about it, but it's really hard to follow because it's so restrictive. And I mean, if you can't, like if you eat plant food and it makes you so sick you feel like you're going to die, then of course you will follow the carnivore diet and you'll be thankful that you feel so much better. But what if you could start to have other foods and they would not make you sick? So the carnivore diet, because you're eating fat and protein, it is very satisfying. It's a very simple diet, so it's not a lot of prep cooking time. It can help you to reach your ideal body weight pretty easily. And so those are really the biggest benefits that I can see. So there are a lot of benefits, but the limitations are a lot more. So number one, some of the limitations could be that it is like really restrictive. So it's really like, it's easy to, unless you have a really good reason, it's really easy to fall off the wagon and to have a little bit of this or a little bit of that. And when you start adding in other things that, very quickly you can start having more symptoms again. So it's very important that you follow it to a T if you're looking to have the most benefits. And so when you eat just meat and fat, your microbiome will be quite different than if you eat vegetables. So there are certain microbes that prefer fiber, and then there's certain ones that will go after more of the meat. So your microbiome will be a little bit different. And I don't think that is hugely different, except for when you eat carnivore, it's not going to get rid of the parasites. Because if it did, then if you ate carnivore for 3 years and then you went back to eating the other food, like bringing in salads and vegetables, you would be fine, but you're not fine because the parasites, they don't leave until you treat them. They reproduce inside of you, they produce eggs, they produce babies, they hatch larvae, they keep reproducing, and they become more populated as we age. So that's why we have to treat them also. That's where we get the greatest improvement in our health and longevity. And it is important to make sure we know what we're doing so we don't have nutritional deficiencies. And also, I think the biggest thing is the long-term sustainability. So although the carnivore diet was super popular for a few years, I see that already it's starting to become a little less popular. I believe it's, when you're talking about it in the sense that plant food is toxic, I think that is a fad. If you are saying that this is a tool to help to decrease inflammation, and it's a healthy diet, if you do things properly, just like, if you want to be vegan, But I feel a vegan diet is probably not as healthy as a carnivore diet, just because most of us that have health issues, we have parasites, and the vegan diet is really high in carbohydrates, and that is the favorite food of the parasites. So it's important to really understand before you go to a drastic step of following a diet like this where you can only eat meat. And again, I love beef. Like, I have no problem with eating beef. I have it several times a week. I absolutely love it. I eat meat at least twice a day, and I have eggs in the morning. So our diet, the Live Disease-Free diet, it is really considering the reason why people do so well on the carnivore diet, but giving people a little bit more of a variety to eat. But there will be the odd person that can't eat anything but meat because of the parasite load that they have. But what I've noticed with them is that literally, even with one parasite drug, like one of my students, like within a week, she was able to eat at least like close to 10 different vegetables already. So it can happen really quickly when you are treating parasites, especially if you have a proper plan. So like with the Live Disease-Free plan, we really support the body, we get ready to treat, and we treat the parasites. And so some of our students that come to us, they follow the Live Disease-Free diet. All of our guidelines are on our website, livediseasefree.com. They're free right under research. And then other students come to us, and there's a very small percentage, maybe 5 or 10%, that are on the carnivore diet. And sometimes they just went on the carnivore diet because they're like, well, I just thought I'd try it, and I was just eating a North American diet, and I went on the carnivore diet, and it did help me. And so I'm like, well, if you want to stick with that until you start treating, or if you want to switch to the Live Disease-Free diet, you can. So they try it, and they're able to bring in a little bit more variety, and it's just more fun to eat different foods instead of only beef. And so then they treat, and then they recover. But there's a small number of people that are like, I can't eat any vegetables. I just get so much pain. Then stick with a carnivore diet, but treat the parasites. You will have a much greater quality of life. You will, if you want, be able to introduce other foods back again. You still want to eat a healthy life, follow a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle, absolutely. You don't want to go excessive on carbohydrates because that will promote infections in your body, promote parasites again, like we are exposed to them. And when we feed them tremendously, then they're going to be multiplying in our body a lot quicker. So for those of you that are considering the carnivore diet, like you must have seen, like in the last 3 years or 4 years, like the huge gaining interest in parasites. And really that is the cause of the symptoms. That is the cause of the inflammation. Through common sense, through research, through people recovering from all kinds of chronic diseases by treating parasites. And so if you prefer to use a carnivore diet to get to that place of treatment, you can, or if you want to use the Live Disease-Free diet, but you should be eating low carb because the carbohydrates are what feed the parasites that are causing your symptoms. So that's why the carnivore diet is helpful, because it's low carb. I'm going to go to your questions. All right, so hello, Joanne. I'm on green tea now. So green tea is, it has caffeine in it. And if you have chronic disease, you are dealing with a parasitic infestation. And so if you're dealing with a parasitic infestation, you definitely want to avoid any stimulants like caffeine. And so green tea has caffeine. So green tea is healthy, but just avoid anything with caffeine until you have treated the parasites well enough that you are symptom-free. You don't want to activate them. So Joanne, you don't eat beef. And that's another thing, is that beef has really got a lot of bad publicity. And when you look at people that are really sick and they go on the carnivore diet and they're usually eating beef, they feel really, really well on it. So beef, like obviously with all of our food, if we can go for organic and grass-fed beef, all of that is really important. But our students, not all of them can afford it. Not all of them have access to grass-fed organic, and they're still recovering from MS and other chronic diseases. So just get the best quality food you can. But the saturated fat, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually super healthy, especially if it's grass-fed. And that what's causing the heart disease is the high processed carbohydrates and sugars that have been in our diet ever since we've gone fat-free. Can parasites live on nicotine? I don't think so. So there are some doctors that have been promoting nicotine patches for people that have that virus that was going around a while ago. I don't want to say it just to avoid censorship. So they have been recommending the nicotine patch. This is something you would talk to your practitioner about, just because nicotine is not addictive, it's not harmful, but it's a stimulant. But it can help people, and I'm not going to go into all the science behind it, but it replaces the cell receptors have a higher affinity for nicotine than the spike protein, and so it will displace the spike protein, and it can give people a lot of benefit, but you've got to use it properly. It doesn't help everyone. It only helps people if you're dealing with ongoing or persistent viral issues from that virus that we had before. So beef is super healthy. It is like really full of nutrients, iron, but it is good to have a variety of food. And it's just, the whole thing is like, can you handle just eating like one type of meat? And it's expensive too. I forgot to mention too that beef it's awful how expensive it's becoming. So that's another huge issue. It is definitely worthwhile to get grass-fed beef if you can. But so basically, again, like, what is your goal? Is your goal to recover from chronic disease, or is your goal to eat beef for the rest of your life? If your goal is to recover, then you've got to treat the root cause. That's really what's driving the symptom improvements. It's not just eating beef, it's that you have decreased the carbs significantly, and it's the parasites that are causing your symptoms. So if you want to have, like, creating health, having a lot more energy, having strength, and being able to go and to live like I say, like a normal person, just having a lot of different things going on in your life, then what you need to do is you need to treat the cause of the inflammation. And again, by definition, it's your immune system. It's fighting different types of infections in your body. And so, yes, it's good to make them more quiet with diet, but treat them. And that's what we do in the Live Disease-Free program, is we're really teaching people how to play that active role in their healthcare, because a lot of our doctors, they don't know how to treat a lot of these parasites. And so, like, our students are recovering from really huge roundworms and intestinal flukes and liver flukes and tapeworms, and a lot of parasites that we can't see, like the protozoa, the bacteria, and fungi. I've done lots of different videos and blog posts on our website, livediseasefree.com. You can just look at the subjects. You can look at the large roundworms that our students are passing. You can look at the flukes that our students are passing. It's really hard to find really good pictures of flukes online. And so it's neat that you can actually see what they look like. And they're just disgusting. They cause a lot of inflammation. They're really common, a lot more common than we realize. And that is why we are so sick. It's not the plant food that's making us sick. It is the parasites that are making us sick. What can you say about cinnamon? Well, cinnamon is a really wonderful spice. And you just have to be careful that you get like a specific type of organic cinnamon, because apparently it's contaminated with heavy metals often. So cinnamon is fine, but it's not going to, it like has some antimicrobial properties, but it's not going to treat the level of parasites that we are dealing with when we have chronic disease. Okay, I'll see if there's any last couple of questions here. What kind of tea can we consume? So there are any type of tea that is naturally caffeine free would be fine, and it does not taste sweet on your tongue. So nothing sweet. So things like peppermint, spearmint, chamomile, lemon ginger. There's all kinds of, many different types of, there's Tega, which is an organic tea. It tastes like Earl Grey. rooibos teas. There are so many different teas that you can have, but don't have any teas that have like blueberry or like some kind of berry fruit, which tastes sweet. Plum tea. I mean, they're nice, but again, any sugar is going to feed the parasites. They don't care if it's coming from a cookie or an apple, or if it's coming from sugar in tea. It all will feed the parasites. So you really want to get the carbs low enough, and it's life-changing. Like, it can be incredibly life-changing. And so even with the carnivore diet, it's really important that if you have chronic disease and you're following the carnivore diet, that you keep your diet really simple and keep it to beef and fat, because then you will have the most symptom improvements and more fat than beef, like that you're getting a lot of fat calories. That's really important. Because again, too much beef or too much meat, your body will convert that to sugar in your blood, and your blood glucose will go up. And so I just wanted to finish with some final thoughts, is that, if you do a Google search of, carnivore diet and multiple sclerosis, there will be some studies that come up and say that they really discourage carnivore diet for MS because it's not sustainable and it's not nutritious and blah, blah, blah. And it's really unfortunate. Like, it just seems like there is this agenda to keep us away from getting to the root of the cause, which is infections. And so whenever you find something that's helpful, there's a lot of negative publicity right at the top of the search engines about all of this. So again, the carnivore diet, if you follow it properly, if you have chronic disease, you will probably notice symptom improvements because you are decreasing the food to the parasites that are causing your symptoms. And then you have to decide, okay, do I want to live on beef for the rest of my life? Only beef. I love beef, but only beef? No. Then if I treat the parasites that are causing all my symptoms, then I can have beef with other foods, and I can actually have much more strength and energy and mental clarity. And all of that comes with feeling healthier. And then too, you're promoting other types of microbes, the ones that really like the fiber, and you can enjoy your food. And food is really a huge enjoyment in life. All right, so decaffeinated green tea we would avoid, because even decaffeinated does have some caffeine. When you're getting ready to treat a parasitic infestation, we're working hard to make these parasites as quiet as possible. So the diet is a big part, decreasing the carbs. And then we want to make sure we're not having any caffeine at all. So naturally decaffeinated will still have some caffeine. And these parasites are so small, they don't need a lot of caffeine, right? So we want to just make them sleepy, quiet, not really happy. We can't kill them with diet and with getting ready to, but we can certainly make them more quiet. And that is where the inflammation decreases. All right, I think I've got the questions. Oh, pre and probiotics. So yes, as we are treating the parasites, we definitely want to build back our healthy ecosystem. Very, very important. So you can purchase supplements online and health food stores. When you are working at treating parasites, it's important to avoid prebiotics, because prebiotics will feed the bad and the good. So if you have parasites, which is what causes chronic disease, and you're taking prebiotics, then it's going to be feeding the bad and making your symptoms worse. So it's okay to have a probiotic without prebiotics. We prefer raw sauerkraut, just starting with small amounts of that, and especially if it's homemade, because then if you take cabbage, hopefully get organic cabbage, so you can have all of this diversity of different microbes that live on the vegetable, chop it up, let it ferment for a week to 2 weeks, usually closer to a week and a half to 2 weeks. And then you have this superfood that's loaded with so many different types of health promoting microbes. That is the best way to repopulate the gut. But as we are recovering also, we're treating with parasite drugs, we're using herbs, we're using oxygen type therapies, we're doing oxygen type enemas, and then we can also do probiotic enemas to help repopulate that area. But again, that'll be pills, and that's from pharmaceutical companies, and they're not going to be the same as the raw sauerkraut. That is really going to be the biggest bang for your buck as far as helping to promote and recover your health promoting microbes. We avoid kombucha tea because that would be like a tea and sugar ferment. So we would avoid that because it'll have caffeine. And if there's any sugar left in it, we definitely don't want that. So the only fermented food if you're sick, if you have chronic disease, and that's why you've gone to the carnivore diet, then we would just recommend small amounts of sauerkraut, just starting with a teaspoon and working your way up that way, or a probiotic capsule if that works better for you. It just everybody's individual, right? It depends where your health is at. Okay, and I think that is it. Let's see here. Yeah, that's it for now. So again, the carnivore diet can give us some symptom improvements, but not because plants are toxic, because we have parasites inside of us, and that is what's causing the inflammation. So we can use the Live Disease-Free diet, which is a lot more enjoyable. For most people, they can handle a few vegetables that are low carb, and they just have more interest, more fun eating. But if you can't, it's fine to follow the carnivore diet, but you still want to treat the infections, the parasites that are causing your symptoms, because that is truly the only way to recover. We do use a healthy lifestyle, we use diet and exercise and activity, but if we don't treat the parasites, if we don't learn how to manage the microbes that live in our body, then we end up still declining. We still don't have the quality of life that we want. So this is the biggest missing piece of the puzzle, is the microbes that live in our body and learning how to manage. And that's what we teach people to do in the Live Disease-Free plan. So if you want to learn more about parasites and how they cause inflammation and how treating them you can recover, go to our website, livediseasefree.com. If you believe in this and you're like, well, I don't have a doctor that can help me, Pam, then make sure to watch my masterclass training. And if you want support, we have a program. I help people. We have wellness champions that are in the plan right now. We have been doing this for years. We have a lot of experience in treating parasites, helping people get their health and their life back. I'd be honored to support you. So just watch the masterclass training if you want to know the steps, or if you feel that you might possibly want to get support from us. Otherwise, if you like the information that I share, if you find it valuable, if it's helping you to really understand what you're dealing with and understand to help to build a plan to recover, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us to get the word out. You can help to be a wellness champion by spreading this information. This is the only way things are going to change. The only way we are going to get our healthcare system to start treating the root cause, to start curing people. That's what we want, is we want cures. We don't want to live with sickness. We don't want to manage our sickness. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care and bye-bye for now.